You know, one thing that people seem to either miss or not care about regarding Black Panther is that in the movie, the black suit, this the white movie creators created a black superhero movie, and this black superhero had uh, he drew power from his ancestors. He drew power from like being closer with nature, with animals, and with uh, the plants and that sort of stuff. You know, you've seen Black Panther. You know what I'm talking about. And he kind of had like this extra strength that kind of supposed had made him strong. And the villain he fought against was simply a man trained by white military. Like he was just a man. He was a man that was trained by the white man. And this black superhero who had these powers and this advantage or whatever, um, he got destroyed by the man who had simply just the white man's training. Now, obviously, there's passion and motive and all that stuff. There's a lot more to the movie than just that. But the idea that a white man will create a black superhero and have him, pray to the ancestors and commune with the ancestors, and he's one with the earth, or he's one with nature, and he draws strength from nature, and all this wokeness, and to have him portrayed in such the weak nature that he was portrayed, and to have his villain be literally someone he went to the United States and he got trained by the white man, and he was like the best killer in the world or something like that, and he completely destroyed this pro-black or this pro-Wakandan, but he completely destroyed this black person who drew his strength from this wokeness and this all this other stuff. Nobody talks about that. There is so many, okay, Black Panther was a movie. Like any movie, there's a lot of good stuff. There's going to be a lot of bad stuff. There's going to be a lot of stuff. But it's just so sad that black people are so quick to turn to anything to show their pride or whatever. Like, there's a lot of problems with Black Panther. Like, there's a lot of things in the movie that goes against what a lot of black people claim to have a problem with. Like the border barrier, the zero tolerance policy on immigration. And then, by the way, like when you think of Black Panther, when Black Panther finally confronted and overcame his enemy at the end, do you know what gave him the strength to keep going? You know what gave him the determination to beat this foe and to reclaim his throne? It wasn't the danger of his loved ones. It wasn't his pride as a king or as a man. It was the realization that social justice is the way to go. The Black Panther, when he was in the spiritual realm talking to his family and learning about the things that his family has done and how wrong they were, it was basically like, no, I must become a social justice warrior and make this right and stand up for the oppressed and all that stuff. Which obviously, standing up for people that's oppressed isn't bad. But my whole point is, look at what gave him strength. It wasn't nothing. It wasn't his blackness. It wasn't his pride as a man. It wasn't his family. It wasn't like his mom and his sister. And it was social justice. Social justice is what gave this black superhero what he needed to overcome the man who was trained by the white man. Like, that's what got him over the hump. It wasn't black power at all. It was nothing between T'Challa and Killmonger. There was literally no black power or no black essence from inside of his blackness that made him overcome this villain. And to add insult to injury, when T'Challa finally beat Killmonger, it wasn't because of the strength of his ancestors or the herbs or anything like that. You know what got him? You know how he overcame what's his name? Killmonger? Technology. Because when they put those suits on, when it was just mano a mano, he got destroyed. So this is something that I don't know. It's not me looking too deep. It's just something that I noticed watching the movie, and it's something that people won't realize. Like, if you look at it, things on a deeper level, and not like trying to make it a conspiracy or trying to find fault with something, that's something totally different. But just observing what happened and analyzing it, think about what the movie actually showed. Now, I'm not saying this is their intent. I'm not saying that this was the creator's intent. I'm telling you this is the implications of what happened. And this is exactly the point of what I post. You got to look past the emotion. You got to look past the imagery. You got to think about the implications of what's being said, the implications of what's being done. That's what my Facebook is all about. That's what my YouTube channel is all about. And this whole Black Panther, even though the movie is an old story, this is a perfect example. White men, and this is not, like I said, this isn't accusatory. This is just stating something. White men created a black superhero who had basically like superpowers from his culture and that sort of thing. Like, he had the spiritual guidance and strength from his ancestors. He had nature, and he lost to a man who simply had the training, aside from like the anger and all that. But he just had the training of the white man. Completely destroyed him. And what finally got this black superhero over the top was his newfound passion for social justice, global social justice. He became Black Panther he went from a nationalist to a globalist. Now, how many of y'all talk about the Illuminati and the one world government and globalism and everything is all connected? Like, y'all be against that stuff. That's what he became in the end. You know, the whole idea that we need to look out for black people first and look out for our own first. The Black Panther literally went from that mentality to the mentality which y'all call other blacks coons for having, which is, no, everybody needs to be taken care of, and it's not just black people. You know, like, he became a globalist. He became he became not the woke dude that he was in the beginning, but yeah, y'all liked him for that. Killmonger was the woke dude. But what got him over the hump, what got him to able to beat Killmonger, was when he put that suit on. What does that say about the intrinsic power of the black, I should say Wakandan, because it's Wakanda. What does that say about the power of their culture and tradition and all of that stuff? Well, you could argue that the technology was a part of that because they had this great technology, but ultimately, it wasn't like, it wasn't the culture. It wasn't the spirituality. It wasn't the knowledge of self. It wasn't none of that. It was technology. So that's just something to think about. Like, don't be so quick. Don't be so quick to look at something that seems kind of good on the surface and impressive or whatever, and just run with it and promote it, or just think this is automatically good because it automatically shows certain things about black people that are good. You will miss so much when you do that, especially when it comes to politics. A lot of y'all, you're looking at these black people running for office, and you want to vote for them because, oh, they're black. And they talk about oppression. But you don't realize that they're pushing socialism, which is actually a dramatic increase in government. Socialism, if the government is oppressing you, if the government's oppressing you, if white men are oppressing you, if white men run the government, why would you vote for more government? And you may say, okay, well, I'm going to vote for a black person with more government. Like, okay, look around the world. Look around the world. Look at all the countries that are run by black people. How many of them are being oppressed by that black person? So you got to stop, there's more to stuff than just the narrative and what sounds good. You got to look at policies. You got to look at stuff on a deeper level and get out of this shallow, stereotypical mindset of I'm going to look for things that are stereotypically or mainstream seeming wokeness, and actually start challenging the stuff that's put in front of you. People get so lost in appearances without really looking at things critically. Some of the hate crimes, so-called hate crimes that come out, some of the things that when I challenge black people about what black people can do for themselves and not to be dependent on the government, I get pushback because I don't follow the mainstream narrative. I don't follow the status quo of what it means to be woke or to have black power. And it's so frustrating because people think on such a shallow level that nothing has ever changed. And you'll end up supporting people who encourage your weakness and your victim mentality. Now this, this is something way beyond Black Panther. But the whole point of me bringing that up years later, or I don't know, what came out last year or whatever, the whole point of me bringing that up was that I just thought it was a good illustration of how you can see a lot of good things that seem really good on the surface. And not saying that the movie didn't have good things. The movie was pretty good. I liked it. I saw it twice. But there's more to it than just what people present you. And it's such a common sense thing. But when it comes to wokeness and blackness and the black cause, people don't think that way. You don't want to be around people telling you what you want to hear. You don't want people around you that's going to baby you. You don't want people around you that's going to take your power away from you by making you a victim, making you helpless, regardless of how much they seem to empathize or sympathize with what you're going through, regardless of how much they seem to have good intentions. You have to understand how their policies and their method of dealing with things will actually affect you and other people in the real life. Government policy, mentality, just like in general, who you're around and that sort of thing, it affects you in a certain way. And if you're around somebody who constantly tells you you're a victim, then they're speaking powerlessness into your life. They're speaking victimhood. Either you're going to become incredibly hateful, or you're going to be incredibly dependent because you're constantly being told of what you can't do because of your oppressor. And from what I see, people become both. They become hateful and they become dependent. Dependent in the sense of they have the mentality that if things are going to change for them, it must be done by some outside source. Often, the very source that they're told is their oppressor. So when you have that mentality, you completely make yourself a slave. You make yourself a slave. If you're saying the only way I can change my situation is if the white man or the government changes something, you're saying you don't have any power. You can acknowledge whatever you believe or the challenges are in the world and the unfairness and that sort of thing. But if your primary focus is not what you can do, what we can do, but it's what we must get them to do, we must beg and plead them to do, you don't believe in black power. You don't believe in black power. And that's what I challenge with people. Stop looking at what other people can do and look at what you can do.